thou weary? Art thou languid? The questions, ladies and gentlemen. Let's make it talk.
Art thou weary? Art thou languid? Art thou sore distressed? Come to me, saith one, and carry me at rest.
Oh, George, can you come down a minute?
Yes, Pa.
Make yourself comfortable, George. I'll only keep you a minute. How old are you, George?
I'm 16, almost 17.
And what do you want to do after school's over?
Pa, you know that. I want to be a farmer on Uncle Luke's farm.
So, you'll be willing, will you, to get up early every morning and milk and feed the stock and hoe and hay all day?
Why, sure I will. What do you mean, Pa?
Well, I was in my office this morning and I heard the most peculiar noise. And what do you suppose it was? It was your mother chopping wood. There you see your mother, cooking meals all day long, washing and ironing. And yet, she still has to go in the backyard and chop her own wood. I guess she just got tired of asking you and suppose it was easier to do herself. And yet, you still eat her meals and wear the clothes that she keeps nice for you. And you run off and play baseball. Like she's some hard girl that we keep around but that we don't like very much. Well, George, I knew all I had to do was bring your attention, but here's a handkerchief, son. George, I've decided to raise your spending money 25 cents a week. Not for chopping wood for your mother, of course, because that's the gift that you give her, but because you're getting older and I suppose that there are things that you must find to do.
Thanks, Pa.
Now let's see. Tomorrow's your payday, and you keep counting it. I suppose Rebecca will feel she ought to have some more as well. I wonder what would happen to your mother. Choir practice was never as late as this before.
It's only 8:30, Pa.
I don't even know why she's in that old choir. She has more voice than old crow. Traipsing around at this hour of night. Suppose it's time that you retired, don't you think so?
Yes, Pa.
Good night, Martha. Good night, Mr. Foster. I'll have to tell Mr. Webb. I know he'll want to put it in the paper. My, it's late. Good night, Irma. Real good choir practice, wasn't it? Myrtle Webb, look at that moon, would you? Potato weather, for sure. Naturally, I didn't want to say a word about it in front of the others. But, now that we're alone, really, it was the worst scandal that was ever in this town. What? Simon Stimson. No, Luella. But Julia, to have the organist of the church drink and drunk year after year, you know he was drunk tonight. Now, Luella, we all know about Simon Stimson's troubles he's been through. Dr. Ferguson knows about them too. And if Dr. Ferguson keeps him on the job, well, the best thing we ought to do is just not to notice it. Not notice it, but it's getting worse. No, it isn't, Luella. I've been in this choir twice as long as you have, and I can tell you it's getting better. It doesn't happen as much as often as it used to. My, I hate to go to bed on a night like this, but if I'm not home soon, the children will be up till all hours of the night. Good night, Luella. Good night, Julia. Good night. Can you make it home all right, Luella? It's as bright as day. I can see Mr. Soames scowling out the window now. You think we've been to a dance where the men folk carry on? Well, we had a real good time.
You're late enough.
Hey, any later than usual.
And you stopping at the corner to gossip with a lot of hens.
Now, Frank, don't be grouchy. Come out and smell the heliotrope in the moonlight. Isn't it wonderful? So, what'd you do all that time I was away?
more the girls gossiping about tonight.
Oh, believe me, Frank, there's a lot to gossip about.
Simon Simpson far gone, was he?
Worst I'd ever seen him. How about him, Frank? Dr. Ferguson can't forgive him forever.
Well, I guess I know more about Simon Simpson's affairs than anybody else in this town. Some people ain't made for small town life, but there's nothing we can do but then leave it alone. Go, get in.
No, Frank, I'm worried about you.
What are you worried about?
Frank, I think it's my duty for you to get a real rest and change. And well, if I get that legacy, I'm going to insist on it.
Now, Julia, there's no sense in going over this again.
Frank, you're just so unreasonable.
Now, Julia. It's late out, and next thing you know, you'll catch a cold. I gave George a piece of my mind tonight. I reckon you'll have your wood chopped for a while anyways. No, start getting upstairs.
Oh, it just seems like there's so many things to clean up. You know, Mrs. Fairchild locks her door at night. All those people up that town do.
That's the trouble with them. They're all getting citified. Ain't nobody got nothing fit to burgle, and everybody knows it.
Get out of here, Rebecca. There's only room for one at this window. You're always spoiling everything.
Well, let me look just a minute.
Use your own window.
I tried, but there's no moon there. George, you know what I think? I think the moon's getting nearer and nearer, and there'll be a big explosion.
Rebecca, you don't know anything. If the moon were getting nearer, all the fellows that sit up all night at the telescopes would know about it, and they would tell about it, and it would be in all the newspapers.
George, is the moon shining on South America, Canada, and half the whole world?
Well, probably is.
9:30. Most of the lights are out. No, there's Constable Warren trying a few doors on Main Street. And here comes Editor Webb after putting his newspaper to bed.
Good evening, Bill.
Mr. Webb?
Quite a move.
Yep.
Been all quiet tonight?
Well, I saw Simon Stimson rolling around a little. Then his wife went out to look for him, so I looked the other way. There he is now.
Good evening, Simon. Town seems to have settled down pretty well for the night. Good evening, Simon. Yes, the town has settled down for the night pretty well. Can I walk along a ways with you? Good night.
I don't know how that's going to end, Mr. Webb.
Yes, well, he's seen quite a peck of trouble from one thing to another. Say, Bill, if you see my boy smoking any cigarettes, give him word, will you? He thinks very highly of you.
I don't think he smokes no cigarettes, Mr. Webb. Leastways, not more than 2 or 3 a year.
Yes, let's hope not. Good night, Bill.
Good evening, Mr. Webb.
Who's that up there? Is that you, Myrtle?
No, it's me, Papa.
Why aren't you in bed, Emily?
I don't know. I just can't sleep. The moonlight's so wonderful. And the smell of Mrs. Gibbs' heliotrope. Can you smell it?
Yes. Say, I don't know. You haven't any troubles on your mind, have you?
Troubles, Papa? No.
Well, you enjoy yourself, but don't let your mother catch you. Good night, Emily.
Good night, Papa.
You know, I never told you about that letter Jane Crowfoot got from the minister when she was sick. He wrote her a letter, and on the envelope, the address went like this. Jane Crowfoot, the Crowfoot Farm, Grover's Corners, Sutton County, New Hampshire, United States of America.
What is so funny about that?
Just listen, I'm not finished. United States of America, continent of North America, Western Hemisphere, the Earth, the solar system, the universe, the mind of God. That's what it said on the envelope.
Well, what do you know?
And the postman brought it just the same.
What do you know?
That's the end of the first act, friends. On with the second. down some of the dirt. Some babies that weren't even born before have begun talking regular sentences already. And a number of young people who thought they were right young and spry have found they can't bound up a flight of stairs like they used to without their heart fluttering a little. Yes, all that can happen in 1,000 days. Nature's been pushing and contriving in other ways, too. A number of young people fell in love and got married. Yes, the mountain got bit away a few fractions of an inch, and millions of gallons of water went by the mill. And here and there, a new home was set up under a roof. Almost everybody in the world gets married. You know what I mean?
In our town, there are hardly any exceptions. Most everyone climbs into their graves married. The first act was called the daily life. This act is called love and marriage. There's another act coming after this one. I reckon you can guess what that's about. So, it's 3 years later. It's 1904. It's July 7th, just after high school commencement. That's the time most of our young people jump up and get married. As soon as they've passed their last examinations in solid geometry and Cicero's orations, looks like they suddenly feel themselves fit to be married. It's early morning.
Only this time, it's been raining. It's been pouring and thundering. Mrs. Gibbs's garden and Mrs. Webb's here, drenched. All those bean poles and pea vines, drenched. All yesterday, over there on Main Street, the rain looked like curtains being blown in the wind. It may begin again any minute. There, you can hear the 5:45 in Boston.
And here comes Mrs. Gibbs and Mrs. Webb downstairs to make breakfast, just as though it were any ordinary day. I don't have to point out to the women in my audience that both of those ladies they see before them, both of them cooked 3 meals a day. One of them for 20 years, the other for 40, and no summer vacation. They brought up 2 children apiece, washed, cleaned the house, and never a nervous breakdown.
It's like what one of those Middle West poets said. You've got to love life to have life. You've got to have life to love life. It's what they call a vicious circle.
Yeah, Bessie.
Here comes Howie Newsom delivering the milk. And there's Cy Crowell delivering the paper like his brother before him.
Morning, Howie.
Morning, Si. Anything in the paper I ought to know?
Not much, except we're losing about our best baseball player Grover's Corner has ever had. George Gibbs.
Reckon he is.
He can really hit and run bases, too.
Yep, mighty fine ball player. Whoa, Bessie. I guess I've got a mind to stop and talk if I have to. You're up early, Bill.
Well, I've been seeing if I can prevent a flood. River's been rising all night.
Si Cole here's all worked up about George Gibbs retiring from baseball.
Oh, yes, sir. That's the way it goes. See, back in '84, we had a player side. Not even George Gibbs could touch it. By the name of Hank Todd. But then he went down to Maine and became a parson. Mighty fine ball player. Howie, how does the weather look to you?
It might clear up.
Good morning, Howie. Think it's gonna rain again?
Oh, it's rained so hard. I think maybe it'll clear up.
I certainly hope so.
How much did you want today?
I'm gonna have a house full of relations, Howie. Looks to me like I'll need 2 of cream and 3 of milk.
Mrs. Newsom told me to tell you that we hope to both be very happy. We know they will.
Thank you, Howie. And you tell your wife I hope to see her there, at the wedding.
She'll be there. She'll be there if she can.
Good morning, Mr. Newsom. I said 4 pounds of milk. I hope you can spare me another.
Is it cream?
Of course. Is it going to rain again, Mr. Newsom?
I was just telling Mrs. Gibbs that how it may clear up. My wife told me to tell you that we both hope to be very happy. We know we will.
We're counting on seeing you at the wedding.
We'll be there. Couldn't miss that. Come on, Betsy.
Well, Ma, day's coming. You're losing one of your chicks.
Frank Gibbs, don't say another word. I feel like crying every minute. Here, sit down and drink your coffee.
The groom's up shaving himself, only there ain't an awful lot to shave. Whistling and singing like he's glad to leave us. Every now and then he looks in the mirror and he says, I do. Only, it don't sound too convincing to me.
Oh, Frank, I don't know how they'll get along. I've arranged his clothes and seen to it he's put warm things on. Frank, they're too young. Emily won't think of such things. He'll catch his death of cold within a week.
I was remembering our wedding morning, Julia.
Oh, Frank.
I was the scariest young fellow in the state of New Hampshire. I thought I'd made a mistake for sure. But when I saw you coming down that aisle, I thought you were the prettiest girl I've ever seen. The only trouble is, I've never seen you before. There I was in the Congregational Church, marrying a total stranger.
How'd you think I felt, Frank? Weddings are perfectly awful things. Farce, that's what they are. Here, I made you something.
Why, Julia Hersey, French toast?
Tain't hard to make, and I had to do something.
How'd you sleep last night, Julia?
Well, I heard a lot of hours struck off.
I get a shock every time I think of George as a family man. That great gangling thing. I tell you, Julia, there's nothing so awful as a son. The relation of father and son is the darndest, awkwardest.
Well, mother and daughter's relationship's no picnic either, let me tell ya.
I'm sure they'll have their troubles, but that's none of our business. Everyone has a right to their own troubles.
Yes, people are meant to go through life 2 by 2. Tain't natural to be lonesome.
Julia, you want to know what I was scared of the most when we got married?
Oh, go along with you.
I was scared we wouldn't have material for conversation more than last us a few weeks. I was afraid we would run out and eat our meals in total silence. That's a fact. Well, Julia, we've been conversing for nearly 20 years now, without any noticeable barren moments.
Well, good weather, bad weather, tain't my choice, but I always try to find something to say. Did you hear Rebecca stirring around upstairs?
No, only day of the year she isn't managing everybody's business up there. She's hiding in her room. I got the impression she's crying.
Lord's sakes, this has got to stop. Rebecca! Rebecca! Come downstairs and eat your breakfast.
Good morning, everybody. Only 5 more hours to live.
George Gibbs, where do you think you're going?
Oh, I'm just stepping across the grass to see my girl.
George, you put your overshoes on. It's raining torrents. You'll catch your cold within and cough all through the service.
Oh, Ma, it's just a stab.
George, you will not leave this house without you're prepared for it.
George, listen to your mother.
George, from tomorrow on, you can kill yourself in all kinds of weather, but while you're living in this house, you'll live wisely. Thank you. George, maybe Mrs. Webb isn't used to callers at 7 in the morning. Here, take a cup of coffee.
I'll be right back. Good morning, Mother Webb.
Goodness, you're right. Now, George, I'll let you in a minute out of the wet, but you can't stay.
Why not?
Because a groom can't see his bride until he sees her in church.
Oh, that's just an old superstition. Good morning, Mr. Webb.
Good morning, George.
Mr. Webb, you don't believe in that old superstition, do you?
There's a lot of common sense in some superstitions, George.
Millions have followed him. You don't want to be the first to fly in the face of custom.
How's Emily?
She hasn't waked up yet. Haven't heard a sound out of her.
Emily's asleep?
Well, no wonder. We were up till all hours of the night sewing and packing. Here's what I'll do. You sit here, and you drink this cup of coffee, and I go upstairs so she doesn't surprise you. Be quick about it. There's some baking too.
Well, George, how are you?
Oh, fine, fine. Mr. Webb, what sense could there be in a superstition like that?
Well, you see, George, on her wedding morning, a girl's head have to be full of clothing and one thing or another. Don't you think that's probably it?
Yes, I suppose I never thought of that.
Yes, the girl have to be mighty nervous on her wedding morning.
I just wish a guy could get married without all the marching up and down.
Every man who's ever lived has felt that way about it, George. It's no use. A man is mighty small at a wedding. It's the women folk who built it up. All those women standing there shoulder to shoulder, making sure the knot's tied in a mighty public fashion.
But you believe in it, don't you, Mr. Webb?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, my boy. Don't you misunderstand me. Marriage is a wonderful thing. A wonderful thing. And don't forget that.
No, sir. Mr. Webb, how old were you when you got married?
Oh, I'd been to college, and I'd taken some time to get settled down. But Mrs. Webb, she was no older than Emily is now. Oh, age hasn't much to do with it, my boy. Not compared with other things.
What were you going to say, Mr. Webb?
I don't know. Was I going to say something? George, I was thinking of some advice my father gave me on my wedding morning. Charles, he said, Charles, start out early showing who's boss. Give her an order, even if it don't make sense, just so she'll learn to listen. He said, also, that if anything were to irritate you about your wife, her conversation, or anything, you just get up and you leave the house. That'll teach her, he said. Oh, and he also said to never let your wife know how much money you have. Never.
Mr. Webb, I don't think I can...
So, I took the opposite of my father's advice, and I've been happy ever since. It's a lesson, George. Never ask advice on personal matters. Say, George, are you going to raise chickens on your farm?
What?
Are you going to raise chickens on your farm?
Well, Uncle Luke didn't seem much interested in it,
A
but...
book came into my office the other day on the philo system of raising chickens. I want you to read it. I'm thinking of starting in a small way in the backyard, and I'm going to put an incubator down in the cellar and
Charles, are you talking about that old incubator? Again? I thought you two would be talking about something worthwhile.
Well, Myrtle, if you want to give the boy some good advice, I'll leave you alone with him and go upstairs.
George, Emily sends her love, and she has to come downstairs and eat her breakfast, but she doesn't want to lay eyes on you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Well, Myrtle, I guess you don't know about that older superstition.
And what would that be, Charles?
Sense the cavemen. A bridegroom should not see his father-in-law on the wedding day, or near it. Now remember that.
Thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Webb. Now I must interrupt again here. You see, we want to know how all this began. This wedding, this plan to spend a lifetime together. I'm awfully interested in how big things like this begin. You know how it is. You're 21 or 22, you make some decisions, then wish. You're 70, you've been a lawyer for 50 years, and that white-haired lady sitting at your side has eaten over 50,000 meals with you. How do such things begin? George and Emily are going to show you now the conversation they had when they first knew that, as the saying goes, they were meant for one another.
But before they do it, I want you to try and remember what it was like to have been very young, and particularly the days when you were first in love, when you were like a person sleepwalking, and you couldn't quite see the street you were in, and you couldn't quite hear everything that was said to you. You're just a little bit crazy. Will you try and remember that, please? Now, they'll be coming out of the high school at 3 o'clock. George has just been elected president of the junior class. And as it's June, that means he'll be president of the senior class all of next year. And Emily's just been elected secretary and treasurer. I don't have to tell you how important that is. Yep, there they are, coming down Main Street now.
I can't, Lois. I've got to go home. Goodbye. Oh, Ernestine, Ernestine, can you come over and do Latin tonight? Isn't that Cicero the worst thing? Goodbye. Goodbye, Helen. Goodbye, Fred.
carry your books for you, Emily?
Why, thank you. It isn't far.
Oh, 1 second, Emily. Say, Bob, if I'm late to practice, just start without me. And make sure to give Herb some long high ones.
Goodbye, Lizzie.
Goodbye, Lizzie. I'm awfully glad you were elected too, Emily.
Thank you.
Emily, why are you mad at me?
I'm not mad at you.
You've been treating me so funny lately.
Well, since you asked me, George, I might as well say it right out. Goodbye, Miss Corcoran.
Goodbye, Miss Corcoran. What? What is it?
I don't like the whole change that's come over you in the last year. Now, I'm sorry if that hurts your feelings, but I've got to tell the truth and shame the devil.
A change? What do you mean?
Well, up until a year ago, I used to like you a lot. And I used to watch you as you did everything because we'd been friends so long. And then you began spending all your time at baseball, and you didn't make time to speak to anyone, not even your own family you didn't. And George, it's a fact. You've got awful conceited and stuck up, and all the girls say so. They may not say so to your face, but they do behind your back. And it hurts me to hear them say it, but I've got to agree with them a little.
I'm glad you said it, Emily. I hadn't realized such a flaw was creeping into my character. I guess sometimes you just can't help it.
I always expect a man to be perfect, and I think he should be.
I don't think it's possible to be perfect, Emily.
Well, my father is, and as far as I can tell, your father is, so I see no reason on earth why you shouldn't be too.
I feel it's the other way around, that men aren't naturally good, but girls are.
Well, you might as well know right now that I'm not perfect. It's not as easy for a girl to be perfect as a man, because we girls are more nervous. Now, I'm sorry I said all that about you. I don't know what made me say it.
Emily.
Now, I can see it's not the truth at all, and I suddenly feel that it isn't important anyway.
Emily, would you like to have an ice cream soda or something before you go home?
Why, thank you. I would.
Oh, hello, Stu. Good afternoon, Mrs. Slocum.
Hello, George. Hello, Emily. Why, Emily Webb, what you been crying about?
She just got an awful scare, Mr. Morgan. She was almost run over by that hardware store wagon. Everybody always says that Tom Huckins drives like a crazy man.
Well, now, you take a drink of water, Emily. You look all shook up. I tell you gotta look both ways before you cross Main Street these days. Gets worse every year. What'll you have?
I'll have a strawberry phosphate. Thank you, Mr. Morgan.
No, Emily. Have an ice cream soda with me. 2 strawberry ice cream sodas, Mr. Morgan.
2 strawberry ice cream sodas. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. There are 125 horses in Grover's Corners this minute I'm talking to you. State inspector was in here yesterday. And they're bringing in all of these automobiles. The best thing to do is just to stay home. Why, I remember when a dog could lay down in the middle of Main Street all day and nothing come along to disturb it. There they are, enjoying it. Yes, Mrs. Ellis, what can I do for you?
They're so expensive.
No, don't you worry about that. We're celebrating our election. And then, do you know what else I'm celebrating?
No.
I'm celebrating that I have a friend who tells me all the things that ought to be told to me.
Oh, George, please don't think of that. I don't know what made me say it. It's not true.
No, Emily, you stick to it. I'm glad you spoke to me like you did. But you'll see, I'm going to change so quick. You bet I'm going to change. And, Emily, I'd like to ask you a favor.
Yes?
If I go away to State Agriculture College next year, would you write me a letter every once in a while?
I certainly will. I certainly will, George. It certainly seems like being away for years, you'd get out of touch with things. Letters from Grover's Corners might not be so interesting. Grover's Corners isn't very important when you think of all New Hampshire, but I think it's a very nice town.
The day wouldn't come when I wouldn't want to know everything that's going on around here. I can tell you that's true, Emily.
Well, I'll try to make my letters interesting.
You know, Emily, whenever I meet a farmer, I always ask him if he thinks it's important to go to agriculture school to be a good farmer.
Why, George.
Yeah, and some of them even say that it's a waste of time. You can get all those things anyway from pamphlets the government sends out. And Uncle Luke is getting old. He's about ready for me to start taking over his farm tomorrow if I could.
My.
And it's just like you say, being gone all that time and meeting other people and other places. Gosh, if anything like that